Hey folks, Lenny Lawson here, the Car Guru, and tomorrow is a big day. This is Friday, isn't it? Yeah. So tomorrow is the second Saturday of the month when we have, Second Saturday Cars and Coffee, sponsored by Gateway Ford and Gateway Nissan and Green Outdoor. So what is it? It's where people get together for about 3 hours, eat donuts, non-healthy donuts, guaranteed that. We guarantee they're non-healthy. And then coffee, which is questionable. I hear different things about coffee, but I'm going to drink it anyway. So I'm providing the coffee and the donuts. You got to provide the cars. I'm going to have a bunch of my cars here too. But if you don't have any cars, well, you have a car. But if you don't have a car you want to show, then just drive down to Greenville. And we're going to start at, probably 8. No, definitely 8, and go to about 11:30. And we'll meet and greet and talk and chat and give grand tours of our Gateway facilities, which are pretty cool. They really are. I've done everything I can do to stay ahead of the trends in the auto industry with the latest and greatest equipment. But we have a lot of cars, too, to show. We have the limited edition Ford Bronco two-door. I can't remember the name of it. It's a special edition. It's blue on the top, white in the middle, and orange on the bottom. Doesn't that sound awful? It looks pretty good, though. It was the design created by this gentleman who won the Baja 1000, which was a big automotive race. It was cross-country. It was a timed event. And he was just real successful in the late 60s and early 70s in the Baja 1000 racing Broncos. Well, this is designed to celebrate that. And it's wild looking. We have the Dark Horse Mustang, just came in. As you walk around it, it changes colors. No, I do not understand how that works. I mean, it goes from purple to gray to green. Just if you turn your head sideways, it's a different color. If you look straight ahead, it's a different color. That's pretty cool. It would be very confusing. You might walk out into a parking lot, forget which color it was, walk up at the wrong angle and say, somebody stole our car. So it could be a problem. I'm going to have my 62 ramp-side Corvair truck here. And people absolutely freak out when they see that thing. What is that? Is that a custom? And it's not. Chevrolet actually built this thing. It has a side that drops down. It's called a ramp side. It has one tailgate and one side gate. But it's really cool. Got my 34 Ford Model 40 Phaeton. Going to have it out there as long as it's not raining. We just don't want rain. That's the main thing. This is going to be one of my last hurrahs. Well, I hope not. I'm having my hip replaced again on Tuesday. So say a prayer for me. I'm a little bit nervous about it, quite frankly, because the second time that you have these done, I had it done a year and a half ago, and it failed. And so just had a lot of pain in my thigh, so we got to fix that. Don't want to live with that. So I'm hoping this is better. But we'll have Porsches and hot rods and, cars from the 50s and 60s and 70s. And the first time we did this, I made room for about 80 cars. I think we had 250. I think the second time it rained and we still had about 70 cars. So, it's not one of those formal car shows where you have to sit there all day and sit there in the sweltering heat. You just come in the morning and show off your car and talk to me or whoever else you want to talk to. So it's a good time for everybody. So that's tomorrow starting at 8 and go to about 11:30. And, sometimes you have people that I guess you just assume too much, right? You assume that everybody knows what you know. Because, you're in the car business, or I'm in the car business, you're not, or you may be. And you just make the assumption that people know what stuff is. I had a lady come in the other day, said, Lenny, please explain to me what a hybrid is. So what is a hybrid? Do you know? I'm going to explain it to you if you don't know. It is a vehicle that has a gasoline engine that will run the car, and it also has a battery on it and an electric motor that will also run the vehicle. And when the electric motor takes over and the battery takes over, the engine, the internal combustion engine, shuts off. So will it stay off for long periods of time? No. The hybrid system, the electrical part, is used to just improve fuel economy. It will not drive the car for very far. Anytime you apply your gas pedal, your throttle pedal, if you push it down very hard, the internal combustion engine is going to fire right up. So when you're going down a hill, the engine will shut off and you'll be under battery power. I mean, my F-150 is a hybrid. For all practical purposes, from a fuel economy standpoint, it'll get about 10% better fuel economy. Now, if you look at the typical hybrid, let's say you're looking at a Prius, Prius is only a hybrid. Let's say you're looking at a Camry, and you're looking at a regular Toyota Camry versus a hybrid. The regular Toyota Camry may get 35 miles to gallon on the highway. The hybrid's going to get 40, maybe 42. So it does improve your economy. Usually, hybrids improve the economy exclusively on or around town. I'm sorry, that's what I'm trying to say. They'll improve your fuel economy around town. On the highway, not so much, because at those kind of speeds, the vehicle, in order to overcome the wind resistance, pretty much has to use the power of the internal combustion engine that's on board. Now, Nissan is coming out with an interesting hybrid, and I think I'm going to like this better. So, what drives the wheels all the time? In the Nissan hybrid. It's the electric motor and the battery. Well, what does the engine do that's on it? All it does is charges the battery. That's it. So the thing I like the most about an EV is the smoothness of it. Just the pure acceleration, no hesitation, no transmission shifting, none of that stuff. Typical hybrid has a transmission that's going to shift through the gears. And if you accelerate very hard at all, that engine's going to kick on and you're going to get the little bit of noise and vibration from the engine. Not with a Nissan Rogue hybrid. No. Nay. It's always going to be smooth. The only time the engine kicks in is when the battery needs to be recharged, because there is no connection between the engine and the driving wheels. Isn't that cool? Now, that's as close to an EV as you can get without the range anxiety that you get from an EV. I mean, you never have to worry about running out of gas. Well, I guess you could run out of gas. You just have to watch your fuel gauge, but it's not going to use near as much because the electric motor and the battery is doing most of the work. So that's what's coming. There's some innovation that's out there in the electric or the EV world. And it's needed. We need longer range, we need faster charging times, and we need ubiquitous chargers. We need them everywhere. We need as many chargers as we do gas pumps. And that's going to take 10 or 15 years before that ever happens. Really, probably 20 to 25 years, because it depends on who is in power in Washington. If it's the Democrats, they're going to try to overturn everything that Trump did, and they're going to make us all drive EVs again. They're going to try to make us buy something that we don't want and we're not ready for, just because it makes them feel good. If the Republicans stay in power, then EVs will develop as they need to, as the market demands. They're coming. We're going to be driving electric vehicles, and I don't have a problem with that. Well, I do kind of, because I like the idea of all those pistons going up and down and crankshafts turning and, gas being burned, oil being used. I just like that. I like the sounds. But I guess, I can live without it if you can. Okay, I'm going to take my first break. I'll be back here in just a minute. Okay, in this episode, we're going to be talking about a controversial subject. I totally understand that the world is full of people who are willing to stretch the truth in order to make a sale, or to tell you a bald-faced lie, just out and out lie to you to get you to do something. The true test is, do you know how to recognize it when somebody's lying? So I'm going to give you a few tips. Now, of course, I'm relating this to automobile sales, which a lot of people think is a a dangerous place to have to exist. Because salespeople have a bad reputation, almost as bad as lawyers. Lawyers stick to the story of the person who they're representing. If the person they're representing is a liar, then I guess, is the lawyer a liar? A salesperson at a car dealership, most car dealerships, only get paid when they sell a car. They don't get paid just for being there. If of course, you do have to pay them, a basic wage. It's usually quite a bit more than minimum wage, but not much because they are paid on commission. So what is their motive? Well, they want to sell the car and they want to make as much money as possible on that car. What is your motive? You want to buy a car and you want them to make as little as possible. You want to squeeze that margin down to as low as you can. And I get it. I mean, that's what I want too when I go out and buy a car. So you've got this conflict of interest that exists. And some of these salespeople will say just about anything. Let me tell you a couple ways where you can tell that a salesperson is lying to you, okay? And the first is just basic human nature. When people won't look you in the eye, then that's a sign. It always has been a sign to me. They're either really nervous or they are not being truthful. Also, when they do look you in the eye, but whenever they make a statement about the car like, it's a one-owner car, and the one owner was Avis rental car, they'll look at you, and then when they make the statement, they'll look away. They'll look down. It's just a telltale sign. I mean, my dad was he won Lawson Chevrolet in a poker game. No, he really didn't. That was the rumor when we first came to Greenville, that the guy that owned the dealership had lost it in a poker game to this guy from West Virginia. That didn't happen, although my dad was a good poker player. But he talked about how to read people. What's the sign? What's the tell? You can tell when somebody has a good hand or a bad hand or whatever. And most of the time, if somebody is not being truthful, then there are certain signs. It's a shame you can't hook up a lie detector to every car salesperson that you're dealing with so that you could absolutely know. Another sign is when you ask specific questions about the vehicle, but the salesperson speaks in generalities. He doesn't know his product, and many times they'll just say anything they have to, in order to sell the car. Now, no salesperson is going to have all of the answers, but they need to be knowledgeable enough to be able to answer specific questions. They may not know the cubic feet of space in the trunk. Some of mine will, though. They're very detail-oriented, and they know those things. But they will know the horsepower. They'll know what the features of the vehicle, what are the benefits of those features, and what do they do, and how do they work. You got a salesperson that is very vague and cannot answer a straight-up question, then you need to be concerned about whether they're being truthful or not. If you ask them a question like, well, is this a one-owner car? Well, I believe it was. Or has this thing been through the service department and been fully checked? Yeah, I'm pretty sure we do all of the vehicles that way. He doesn't know. He's guessing. These are important questions. Don't you want to know if somebody says it's a one-owner car, don't you want to make sure it is? Don't you want to make sure it's been through the shop and had, the tires and the brakes, the cooling system, the oil's been changed, all of that checked? That's critical stuff. And if a guy says, well, I believe it has, yeah, all of them get checked that way. Now, I'd like to see some evidence, please. So these are some telltale signs you may see out there on the lot. When you get inside, the game changes because you're on his turf now, and he's presenting you with numbers. And you may say, is that the best you can do? And he said, yes. And said, okay, well, we're going to have to go shop around. Whoops, all of a sudden, that's not the best he can do. Well, before you leave, let me go talk to my manager one more time. Why didn't he do that to begin with? When you said, is that the best you can do? Those are some magic words right there. I've talked about the magic words of the best you can do. If you use that, not just in the car business, but when somebody's quoting you a new swimming pool, or if you are getting a landscaping quote, all you have to say is, well, is that the best you can do? 99.9% of the time, they will say no. And if they do say, Yes, that's the best I can do. Say, well, okay, I need to think about it then. And then they'll massage it. They'll say, well, let me go back to the truck and see if I can work a discount with one of the subs. That's just the way the world is. And you have to have these defensive tools to be able to combat that. But when you get on the salesperson's turf and they quote you numbers, and the salesperson is, again, you can tell they're evasive. A lot of them are very experienced, and they exude confidence. And when they quote you numbers, there's no hesitation. And you can just see it. You don't feel like there's any deception there. While others, especially new salespeople, they are so uncomfortable in that situation. I mean, if they've only been selling cars for 90 days or something like that, they're going to be jumping up and down and going back to the manager multiple times. And if you get tired of that, it's okay to say, listen, I appreciate the effort that you put into this, but can I just talk to the guy that you're running back and forth to, and so I can deal with the man? No offense, but this back and forth stuff is driving me crazy. You don't have to put up with that. One of the first things you can do is just leave. The other thing is to say something like that. And if it offends the salesperson, it's too bad. Because he probably shouldn't be out there on the floor at this point anyway. And I know you want to be nice, you don't want to be mean, and you don't have to be. You don't have to be hateful. Just tell them what your expectations are. Now, one of the best ways to be deceived, or I guess worst ways to be deceived by a liar, is the four-square negotiating method that a lot of car dealers use. If they come to you with a bunch of scribbling on a otherwise blank sheet of paper, and it has four squares on it, and they've got your trade value in one square, they've got the selling price of the vehicle on another square, they've got the required down payment on the third square, and the fourth square they have one or more payments that you can choose from. This is a method to get you off track. This is to get you to focus on the monthly payment and to try to hit your hot button. The sad thing is that none of those numbers relate to one another. That payment that's down there doesn't have anything to do with that sale price or that trade value or that down payment, because they can't prove anything. That they just write numbers down, and they're trying to hit a payment number. They're trying to get you to go to the square that causes you the most pain. Maybe it's the trade value. And if you say, well, this is not enough for my trade, but so the selling price is fine, down payment's fine, and the payment will fit your budget, but you just want more for your trade. And I need an extra $1,000 for my trade. So he'll disappear, come back. They'll give you maybe $500, maybe they'll give you the $1,000, and the payment will change some, but it won't change $1,000 worth, because you don't have a calculator. You don't know what $1,000 more for the trade does to the sales tax and does to the monthly payment. You don't have a calculator. Here's what you need to tell them to do with that four-square worksheet. Tell them to throw it in the garbage and bring you a bill of sale or a buyer's order contract that has a complete breakdown of the selling price, the tax, the trade, any fees that they have, anything that they're adding in like extended warranties and stuff, because a lot of dealerships pack the payments with warranties and gap insurance and things like that, wheel and tire protection. You didn't ask for any of that stuff, but they're packing it in there hoping that you won't notice. And then when you get into the finance office, that finance manager say, guess what's included in this low monthly payment? And they'll start rattling that off. And some people will say, really? In that same payment I get all of that? And other people say, well, I don't want any of that. How much would it be if I didn't take any of that? That's what you need to do. So anyway, I'm going to take my last break. I'll be back here in just 1 minute. I'll tell you this, there are some dealerships that I don't care who you talk to, you have to question whether they're being honest or not, because they have a culture built on deception. And they have justified it in their minds somehow. They think that it's okay. I've heard some of them confess that, it's really on the customer. I mean, if they sign the paperwork, then they know what they're doing. But they don't take into account the fact that they're dealing with amateurs. They're dealing with car buyers who think they should be able to trust the person that's telling them something. And you should be able to. And so they justify it that way. They think that packing payments is okay because, well, you signed the paperwork. But it's not okay. Matter of fact, it's against the law. And if you feel that that's happening to you, if somebody quotes you a payment and then you find out after the fact that it included a service contract, prepaid maintenance, any of that, after you go into the finance office, I would be so offended at that I would just get up and leave. And I would tell them that you can't wait to notify the Federal Trade Commission that they are packing payments because you caught them. That's the thing. You caught them in the act. You were smart enough to catch it and to be offended by it. But the average person is not. It's not because they're dumb. It's because they're just ignorant of the car business and they're trusting, and they are just so blown away at the opportunity to get a new car. And they're tired. They've been getting beat up for the last 3 or 4 hours, and they just want to get out of there. And then they have to live with that decision for the next 84 months. And it's those dealers that have really created a carnival atmosphere with a whole bunch of balloons up, and they've got police tape all over the windshield of the cars and all over the windows of the showroom. They've got a wheel that you can spin. You responded to a direct mail piece, and you've either won a big screen TV or a lottery ticket or $25,000 in cash. Those are the ones that you don't respond to. I mean, I've been competing against these guys for like 47 years, and over the years, you'll have a dealer will come in, and he's just going to take the world over, and they start doing this kind of stuff. And there are plenty of good dealers. I mean, I could name them just right off the top of my head in this particular market area, and there's a few bad apples, and it's obvious who they are. You just need to pay attention. Well, thanks for listening to this edition of My Car Guru. I'm just trying to save you money. I'm trying to save you a headache, a perpetual headache, when you go into a bad deal and then you realize that you're stuck. That's a bad place to be. If you have a question about a deal, you want to run it past me, just send me a text message or call 423-552-2020 or email me at lennylawson2020@gmail.com, and I will see you next time.